That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to BS, Beyond Stereotypes, a podcast about lawyers using their authentic voices to change the world.
The interesting thing that people often don't think about is the positive stereotypes. Because if you want to be cool, you walk like us, you talk like us, you wear your clothes like us, you listen to the music that Black people play, you sing like Black people, you dance like us, you know, and so there are all of those things too that I talk with him about that say, you know, there are lots of people looking at you and thinking you're cool.
Welcome to BS, Beyond Stereotypes. I'm your host, Merle Vaughn. Here to BS with me today is Derrick Boston, whose story I find fascinating and who will no doubt inspire all of you to embrace your authenticity. Derrick is originally from Canada. He attended Harvard for both undergrad and law school, and he's currently the Chief Administrative Officer and General Counsel at Virgin Orbit. Thank you for being with us here today, Derrick.
Hi, Merle. Nice to be with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Really happy to be here. I'll do one clarification up front, though. I'm originally from Guyana in South America and grew up there until I was 9, yes. And then my family moved to Canada. So I have 3 citizenships.
Wow. Do you have 3 passports as well?
I have 2. I don't have a Guyanese passport, but I could get one if I applied. Yes. so I have a Canadian and a U.S. passport.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but in our household, you're affectionately known as the most interesting man in the world, and you're not letting me down. So
that's hard to live up to.
Yeah, well, I don't think so, but we're going to find out here. So I have to get this question out of the way right now. Are you planning to take a trip into outer space? And is that even an option for you in your job description?
So no, and unfortunately no, it's not an option. So and actually, I'm glad you raised it because this is something that a question I get all the time, and I get it because people are thinking of Virgin Galactic, which is our sister company, and our business, Virgin Orbit, started in Virgin Galactic, so that's why I think everyone identifies us with that. But we spun out of that about 3.5 years ago. And so Virgin Orbit is in the business of sending satellites into space. So we send payloads, not people, whereas Virgin Galactic does human space flight. They will take people up into suborbital space and then bring them back down, whereas we send the payload and it doesn't come back down. It stays up there. But I do get that question, and if I were at Virgin Galactic, I would definitely be signing up because it would be great to go into space.
Great. So, and I was reading a little bit about some of the things that Virgin Orbit has done, and you guys have a plane called Cosmic Girl. Can you tell us about Cosmic Girl?
Yeah. So, you know, when you think about launching satellites, you think about a rocket. And the typical thing that you think about when you think about a rocket is, you know, it's on a launch pad on the ground and you fire the engines and it goes up into space. So that's not our system. We have a rocket that's launched from under the wing of a 747 aircraft. And our aircraft, which we bought from Virgin Atlantic, was named when we got it. It was already named Cosmic Girl. We thought this was a real good sign for the future. So Cosmic Girl is our aircraft. Yeah. And you may have seen pictures or videos online, but we have a rocket, a 70-foot rocket that is hung underneath the left wing of the plane. The plane takes off like a regular 747 from an airport and flies up to about 35,000 feet. It does a pull-up maneuver. It goes up to about 20 degrees or so, and in the midst of that maneuver, drops the rocket, peels away, and the rocket then lights its engines and goes on into space. And in fact, we had just on Sunday, this past Sunday, our last full flight rehearsal, which was all systems, all hardware, all software, ground support, telemetry, all teams involved, in which we did everything that we would expect to do on our first flight, and tested every single aspect of our system, from the plane to the rocket to software. And it was a fabulous success. It was really an exciting day. And so we're now just weeks away from our first orbital flight, our test flight. So we're very excited. You've caught us at the right time.
Wow, that's awesome, and that's amazing. Timing is everything, clearly. So you don't sound like a lawyer, Derrick. You sound like a scientist, or a guy who's a technology geek, or are you all of those things? Or talk to me about Derrick and how you ended up in this unique position.
I'll take it as a compliment. I don't know what a lawyer is supposed to sound like, but I'll take it as a compliment that I don't sound like one.
And that was clearly a stereotype I just did there. So let's get beyond it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think that what's really important when you're in-house is to learn the business, to know it and understand it, not as a lawyer, but as a member of the business, the team, in essence, because I think that makes you a better advisor as a lawyer. And so I really put a lot of focus for myself and for my team at getting to know the business and stopping and talking with engineers and understanding what's going on. And in fact, I had not been in aerospace before I got to Virgin Orbit. And the thing about engineers in aerospace is they love acronyms. They love coming up with 3-letter this and 4-letter that, and then just using it in meetings. And so I spent the first 4 months or so sitting in meetings, just writing down these acronyms, and then going out to the break area and grabbing one of the engineers, saying, "Okay, what does this mean? What is this? what did I just hear?"
Right.
In order to really understand the business, and to then be able to talk about it. And so I talk about, with my team, going into meetings and not just sitting there waiting for the legal topic to come up, or somebody to say, "Oh, here's a legal question," but to participate broadly, to talk about what's going on, and to have developed enough understanding to be able to do that. So yeah, it's not been just let's focus on one thing. And so I do think of myself as broader than being pigeonholed in any one area, and able to talk about a lot of these different things.
So in terms of stereotypes, what do you feel people, what stereotypes do you feel that people make about you, and why? And are they right or are they wrong?
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, first you've got the label, as we were just talking about, of the lawyer. And so there are times when I walk into a meeting and they say, "Well, why is legal here? Have I gotten in trouble? Is there a problem?" And part of it is, no, legal's here to participate, just as part of the team. Legal's interested. So that's one stereotype. I am Black, African American, and so there are stereotypes that come with race as well, as we know. And so there are stereotypes that as to what you might know, or what you might be able to do, or what your role might be when you walk into a meeting. And that's a constant that you have to deal with. No, I think those are two big ones in terms of stereotypes. On my team, we have a small team. There's 6 of us. But we are very diverse. So 4 of the 6 are women, and 4 of the 6 are people of color. And so we talk about that a lot. We had an offsite in earlier this year when people actually could get together. And And we talked about stereotypes and what it means and how you face those stereotypes. And so we have women on the team who face stereotypes as women and people of color from other races who face stereotypes. And we talked about the differences and the concerns that are raised there. So that as a team, too, we deal with it and to manage through that.
You're actually being proactive and helping your team basically support each other. I would imagine that part of that is helping them to have the courage to speak up for their teammates in those situations.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we spend time talking about that there is a role for the, quote, bystander, the person who's not engaged in the interaction, but who can see the impact that the interaction is having. And that there is a role for that person to perhaps even deflect, change the topic, change the subject, so that, and then address it later, but not have it become, a bigger impact in the moment. And how you do that, how do you have that crucial conversation with someone? And it's not easy. People get defensive, people misunderstand, and you have to find ways to work through that. And we've had some very difficult conversations, as you might imagine,
right.
With people. And unfortunately, there's only so much that you can do if someone is not willing to listen or not willing to hear. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I or anyone on my team is going to accept that particular stereotype being foisted on you. So we can be very firm and very direct and courteous, but we're not gonna take BS. Let's put it that way.
I like that.
I'm gonna help you with branding too.
No BS. No BS.
No BS. Yeah.
So it sounds like you. I mean, clearly, I know that I know you well enough to know that you have insisted on walking through the world authentically, and that has worked for you. Like, has it always worked for you, or have you felt that it's been a struggle, in your professional life or your personal life?
Mm-hmm. I think that it has been easier once I got out of a law firm, to be very honest.
Okay. We can go there.
There's less. Yeah. I think law firms can be very, are very structured. There's a lot of hierarchy. There's a lot of, focus on the role that you're in and the position you're supposed to play. And I was lucky. I was in a law firm where there was less of that. But once you get out, you see that it is still within a category where there's less of that, where there's less room to be yourself, particularly if you're not in the mainstream. And so it's been easier. And I would say now where I am at Virgin Orbit, one of the big things that is a tenet of Richard Branson's view of doing business is bring your whole self to work and be yourself. Now, that's not always good for everybody. Some parts of you don't want to bring to work. But the general concept of you can be who you are and state who you are and be authentic about it is a really big part of the Virgin ethic. And without sort of doing a commercial for Virgin, it opens up space for you to do that. And probably in my career felt the most empowered to do that.
I saw what you did there. It opens up space. I like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. In fact, that's one of our mottos, opening space for everyone, and meaning it in all senses. It's not, sending rockets up. but also doing it cheaply so that more people can do it, but also on the ground, opening space in our company for people and for different types of people, and feeling that we're stronger when we do that, and not having to justify it. So yeah, no, I think that I'm at a point now where I probably can be the most authentic that I have in my career. You know, and you get to a point too where you're just more comfortable with what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so, you know, you kind of hit that sweet spot. And I think that's the moment now for me, thankfully.
So can you think of any illustrations or stories, or a story that you can tell about a time when, you know, you just had to stick with what felt authentic to you professionally, and kind of give us an idea how that worked out?
To answer your question then about being authentic and a moment, one of the things I do every year is I take MLK Day off. It is a national holiday, but unfortunately it's not one that is often acknowledged by businesses. They can, you know, many businesses remain open. In the last 2 years at Virgin Orbit, it has been good because Virgin Orbit actually does take the day off. But I have been for many, many years now, even in other places, I will take the day, even though the business is open. And I make a point of saying I'm not available on that day, because I think that it's a marker of in honor of somebody important, and it's somebody who I think made a lot of strides for everybody in this country, and I think it ought to be celebrated, and so I hold to that, and that's. I haven't usually gotten a lot of pushback, but sometimes it's caused sort of surprise.
Raised eyebrows.
I say, I'm not going to be here on Monday. So, oh, why? Oh, it's MLK Day. Oh, really? But we're open. Yeah, okay. So it's sometimes it's been that kind of discussion.
Well, I have a similar story. When I was a young associate at a big law firm, and this was many moons ago, I age myself, we did not have MLK Day off either. And it just rubbed me the wrong way, but I didn't have, you know, the sense of self in it that I have now, or that you have, where to just stay home. But I felt like I had to do something. So I actually brought in a cake, and I actually made everybody in the office celebrate MLK Day with me by bringing in this cake. So, you know, so I definitely understand that. And, you know, you are in a position where you have the ability to do that, you know, at your level. But, you know, a young associate or something doesn't necessarily have the ability to do that. But I think what we've illustrated is that you can still stay true to yourself, but do it respectfully.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah. You do have to take account of the environment you're in, and if the environment you're in is too restrictive, too constraining, then you might have to think about whether that's the right environment at the end of the day too.
Right. Exactly. So do you know, what do you have words of encouragement or advice, you know, that you give to others about embracing their authentic self, about being themselves? I know you have young children. Does that conversation come up in raising your kids?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's an important part of it. You know, and we had the conversation from the beginning. It becomes more nuanced and more sophisticated as they get older, but it's definitely a conversation that we've had with them. It's important, I think, because it does a number of, to be authentic, because it does a number of things. It does break stereotypes. It does get you beyond stereotypes. It says, I'm not going to be constrained. It's not my baggage to carry. And so this is, you have somebody in front of you. You need to recognize who that person is, and not try to diminish me or change me or put me in a box or what have you. And so it becomes then, how do you do that? How do you do that in a way that is not more destructive, that is not destructive in any way, and is constructive, and ultimately moves things forward. And I think it's, so we talk about how you're true to yourself, what that means, how you, where you draw a line, and how you draw a line. You say, no, that's not, I'm not going to do that, or that's not, I don't appreciate how that is being structured, and here's why. And I think it's possible to be, to not have issues around that, or to not end up, diminishing yourself, because it's got to start with you. You have to say, I'm going to draw a line here, because maybe no one else is, but I want the line to be drawn here, and then you take and you practice where you're going to draw that line, and it's true. It's true. The interesting thing is it's true for everyone. Because we all go through layers of development and growing up, and dealing with peer pressure and having to say no, and so we think about it in terms of being yourself and protecting yourself as needed. So my son's is learning to drive, and you say, okay, now you have to know about getting in a car and focusing and being in the moment and being safe and not allowing other people to change any of that, and not going into other people's cars where they may be drunk or not in control. So, that's a line, and that's a line of self-protection, but it's also a line of being yourself, being true to yourself. And the more you exercise that muscle, then the easier I think it becomes. That's another message that I give, which is, when you say no to somebody offering you a cigarette, or no to getting into a car with somebody who's drunk and driving, that makes it easier when you have to say no to somebody who's doing something in some other area of your life.
Right, because you develop that muscle.
Exactly.
So
you know where it is and how to do it.
So I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, the fact that you guys are sending satellites into space, and a lot can go right, a lot can go wrong, and you can't anticipate which way anything is going to go. That there have to be a lot of stressful times and situations and uncertainty. How do you handle that uncertainty, that stress? How do you stay calm? Because I know you're one of the calmest people I've ever met. So, how do you do that, Derrick?
I think part of it is I am just a pretty reserved person to start with. So I have a pretty calm demeanor to start. But the thing is, too, that, I'll age myself, too. I've been around the block a few times. So I kind of, so you kind of seen a lot of things that have happened, the things that have gone wrong, and you develop a sense of confidence that you can get past it. that, let's put our energy into figuring out how to solve this. Let's not put our energy into running around with our hair on fire, and blaming others. We'll figure out what went wrong. We'll get a solution in place, and we'll move on. And if you can bring that view of it, that can help people focus in and avoid, some of the unproductive wastes of energy that sometimes happen in a crisis. But one of the things we really do a lot of, specifically at Virgin Orbit, is practicing with our systems, and also then trying to practice when things go wrong too, so that you when it happens, it hasn't happened for the first time, it's happened in practice. You know that you can get through it, and you understand that you understand what you have to do, what your role will be, and you know that others have roles and they will support you. And so, but it's hard. There are some people who, will go into the self-defensive, crouch, and, it wasn't my fault. That was somebody gave this, that person gave me this. And you've got to, work hard to then pull that person out of that, because it keeps the team back from moving forward and getting to a productive outcome.
So you said a couple of things. You mentioned practice, and you mentioned team. And I actually happen to know that you are a very accomplished athlete in a few sports. And and I'll warn everybody: do not play golf with this man, because you will lose.
No.
What role has sports, or has sports played in how you have been able to navigate through your professional life?
Well, you give me way too much credit as a sportsman. Way too much credit. Thank you. It's interesting, because I actually have played more individual sports than team sports. I played volleyball in high school, so that was probably the last team that I was on. But I have looked at and read about a lot of sports-related works that show how athletes get in the zone, stay in the zone, the focus that's required, and kind of sometimes that sort of Zen-like attitude that you have to bring to it. And so some of it does come from that. I wouldn't say a lot, though, because like I said, I'm not. I don't think of myself as a really strong athlete. I can hit a ball.
Yeah, you can hit a ball.
But so some of my lessons come from that, but I wouldn't say that that's been a driving force in how I've approached things.
I'm Black, and I'm tall, and I am athletic, and I used to get that was the one stereotype that I would get a lot. Did you play basketball? And it's fine to have that question if you know how to deal with it. But have you gotten a lot of that in professional settings?
Not a lot, no. It crops up from time to time in just the weirdest places. I went to Harvard. I go back for alumni, and someone will say, "Oh, did you play sports here?" No, I didn't. So I played intramurals. The funniest thing, though, where it did crop up in my personal life was with my son when he was born, because I was there, in the delivery room, and so he's born, and we cut the umbilical cord, and the nurse and I go over to, do the weigh-in and all this sort of thing that they do, and check his lungs and all that, and she says to me, "What's his name?" And I say, he's Derrick Boston III. And she says to me, wow, that sounds like a great basketball player. I can tell you, because I have the name Derrick Boston, that no one's ever said to me that my name, it sounds like a basketball player's name.
That's funny.
Yeah, so in terms of stereotypes, that was it. And I told him that story, that within like 5 seconds of his breathing, he was stereotyped.
Right. So you have to talk. You have to walk him through how to get beyond those stereotypes, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's hard. He's in high school and he's thinking about peers and how they think of him and what have you. And the amazing thing though is that they're both positive and they're negative stereotypes, right? The
right
positive stereotype, it's interesting because there are lots of negative stereotypes about Black people. But the interesting thing that people often don't think about is the positive stereotypes, because if you want to be cool, you walk like us, you talk like us, you wear your clothes like us, you listen to the music that Black people play, you sing like Black people, you dance like us, and so there are all of those things too that I talk with him about, that say, there are lots of people looking at you and thinking you're cool because of what you're doing, how you're walking, how you're moving, and understand too that can play into the influence that you have walking into a room, and understand how you might use that.
I love that. And that kind of leads me to my next question is, what role does diversity, inclusion, and equity play in how you walk through life?
It's what I see as a leading contribution that I can make, professionally especially, where there are different dimensions to that. So one is just being there and being in the room and being in the meeting, and contributing. But I think also it's then being in a role where I can have an impact to help others. So within our company, we have many Black and brown and people of color in general, and I think I've connected with many people to be a support or help as that might be needed, and I've tried to do that. I've tried to also help with the people we hire, with the suppliers that we engage with, the law firms that we hire, to make sure that when we're working on matters, there are attorneys of color who are getting this experience and engaging with us on our projects. And so that's absolutely a very important part of how I think about what I can do in some small way as I walk through this place.
So, I mean, this has been really fun. It's been fun for me. Hopefully, it's been fun for you. I'm
Thank you. Yes.
I'm wondering, are there words of encouragement, or like some fun example, or something that you'd like to end with to share a story or something with our audience to encourage them to be authentic as they walk through this crazy world?
I think that there is value, there's strength that comes from being yourself and being and not wearing a mask, not trying to be something else, because you will be your strongest, best self if you are yourself. You're not going to be your best self if you're trying to be somebody else or trying to act like the way somebody else acts. And part of it too is you then hopefully have to have the confidence that when you do that you're going to get the benefit from it. And unfortunately, sometimes it isn't true, and recognize that not everyone has the space and freedom. And so it's finding those opportunities to be authentic and using them when they arise in as productive a way as possible, and recognizing that when you do that, you're contributing. You're doing a great. You're adding to the energy in the universe, and it might not come back directly to you. It'll come back to somebody else, and I think that'll be helpful. That'll be helpful in general. So hopefully, I'll end there.
Thank you, Derrick. I love that, and I really want to thank you for being here to BS with me today. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone for listening. Until the next episode, remember that everybody is different, and different is good.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
We hope you enjoyed the stories shared in today's episode of BS, Beyond Stereotypes. Join us next time when another authentic personality unleashes their uniqueness on the world.